Since this is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to be talking about none other than Japanese Tuesday, but full breakdown since we are now in the Rising Wind portion of BT12. I figured it would be good time as any to just see what EX-4 plus BT12, what has topped and held its own this whole formats. So without further ado, let's get into the video and talk about it. So without further ado, let's take a look at it. First off, Red Black Greymon sitting at 20%, while Beelzemon here is sitting at 14.4% of the meta, then followed by Hunters at 13.6%, followed by Red Hybrid at 8.5%. This is Bloom Hydro Quartz at 6.4%, while Crossheart is sitting at 4%, then followed by Blue Flare, then Machine Dramon sneaking up in the back there, Alter S Jagras, then you have Gallantmon itself, then Imperial Dramon, then you have Grandis, Grey Knightsmon, Shine Greymon, Jessmon, Maste, All Force, Examon, Bellastar, Armor Rush, Dark Knightmon, Setcon, Fall Down Mode, Rusty Tyrannomon, and then it just goes on and on from there. So things we want to take a look at is how many decks are we using as a data pool here? So for the EX-4 BT12 meta, because both kind of just bled into each other, and then really the only decks that kind of came out of EX-4 that really has stuck in there and held their own tooth and nail had to be Blue Flare. Yes, Dark Knightmon has one, and then you have Grey Knightsmon, but it's like 3 different decks now, and it's one that either focuses on Grey Knightsmon, either focuses on Blue Flare, or you focus on Dark Knightmon itself. So it's a lot of mix and matching and everything like that, which is quite interesting to see how one unified set of supports really fixes a deck sometimes, right? So what are we taking away from here? Red Black Greymon at 85 tops out of 425 is a little crazy. And we're not even done yet. We're not even in BT13 yet. We just started the Rising Wind booster. So that means there is a lot of potential going forwards. Then we have Beelzemon at 61%, 61 tops, Hunters at 58, Red Hybrid at 36, Quartzmon at 27, Crossheart at 17, Blue Flare at 15, and then Machine Dramon at 12. This was brought to you by the meta analysis site that I use. I usually present this in the videos now as to show where the data is coming from. And that's usually a mixture of best of 1 formats, best of 3. It all pulls from the Twitter site. So it's good to see there. So what are we going to take a look at? Well, let's take a look. We do have Greymon. War Greymon is usually the base tier. What we need to take away from this is that this whole bottom line, to be honest with you, is in every single deck now. You will always see these Greymon combinations. It's either this Greymon or BT5 Greymon that digivolves for 1 cost. They are all playing the same bottom line. That means the top end does not matter because the pretty much level 5 below is so airtight that you don't have any flexibility and capacity depending on your format. The only flexibility spot is here where you choose to either go Security Plus or DP Plus. And even then, that's questionable. I mean, with the addition of being able to play your tie for free, that makes it harder for Black War Greymon, because if they pop one of your ties, okay, well, the one in Raisin is going to come up, that Agumon now a turn earlier, play the Greymon, instantly go and play that tie again, and now sets their plays. Now, a lot of decks are having this functionality so that when you lose your Pacific Tamer, you get an ability to play it again. So I feel like that's a really important game piece and game-winning component that is very interesting to me. So why is this deck doing so well? Well, with War Greymon BT12 introduction, you have like Raid here. This gives plus 3000 DP and reboot until the end of your opponent's turn when digivolving. That Raid effect, being able to swing into your opponent's Digimon, really does help out. And it has a nasty protection and a half to deal with because you have Greymon X Antibody here. That reduces basically this Metal Greymon here down to a 2 cost. That has Raid, by the way. So that means it can redirect and stuff like that. But when attacking, target player is switched. You may place 1 red or black tamer with a play cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its memory cost. So that means another tie comes out. That seems kind of nasty, doesn't it? Doesn't it? The way you guys are now able to play free tamers after losing them because they wanted to make sure tamers were put in check. Now we have a million ways, because it's too strong, to play free tamers just to do this again. I think this is the main issue that a lot of these future decks are going to have, is being able to play free tamers. It was classified almost too slow. If your tamer wasn't Cool Boy that would guarantee you plus, Cool Boy wouldn't have played. If this was its only effect and maybe just a gain of memory and not the draw, I don't think Cool Boy would have been still at play. To be honest with you, that's how finite tamers are at some points. Is that unless there are optimization to the card, sometimes it's too hard to play that cost of 4 or even 3 at most instances. So I think that really does play into key factor roles. So as we know, Greymon is just Greymon Tribal is going to be BT12's bread and butter for a bit. Do I think we're going to see more and more? Oh yes, very much so. But we also do have Yalzamon playing it out here. Yalzamon actually started coming in from the left field, especially once the starter decks got revealed. And that was very important in my opinion, because as long as the Beelzemons existed, this Beelzemon here went into Digivolving and when attacking, you may trash up to 2 cards from your deck, then delete one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon. For every 10 cards in trash, add a maximum level of that you can choose with this effect. So let's say you can get to a 6. Now that protection that Greymon has, so you when Digivolving into this, and then all of a sudden you can swing still that turn, you can then chance to blow it up twice. Things like that is really important. But the deck really got a game finisher in Beelzemon X. So when Digivolving, this Digimon has Beelzemon or X Antibodies Digievolution, for every 10 cards in your trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. This card late game wins. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take into account that when you put the X Antibody underneath, you go into this card here. So what's going to happen is that now that 30 cards in your trash is basically 3 security gone out of the way. They basically upgraded this into being a way of dealing with your opponent. And what do I mean by that? Well, you know how Gallantmon is, once the game gets to a certain point, it is just hard to deal with? That you're just losing your security left and right for free? Well, Beelzemon counts your trash instead, which you're in more control of than dealing with your opponent. So basically you just do your thing the whole time, mill, and then boom, go into this, clear out all their security, and what are they going to do? Absolutely hot nothing, to be honest with you. There is very little that they can do, and especially using cards like Death Slinger to be able to extend your plays by that gaining the memory when we mill it, really useful. But we also have Rival's Barrage. So this card, when this card is trashed in your deck, you may place it into the battle area, but it has a main effect, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest level. But the only way this thing comes into the play area is basically if you trash it. So then you get this delay, return one of your purple Digimon card or tamers from your trash to your him. Being able to cycle back key pieces is really important. But all in all, I think this has potential. And to be honest with you, it's been a long time since we had a guaranteed purple deck that really is going to do something in the meta. There's Gallantmon. Chaos Gallantmon was really the last kind of big deck for purple that was consistent next to Lilith Loop. But now, after passing Lilith Loop, we haven't had purple really have a dominant strong deck. I mean, Mastemon's both purple yellow, so you could count it as purple, but I count dual decks as their own kind of thing. So I think that's important to look at. And then we do have the Hunters deck. This deck, just because Arrestermon's superior mode exists, the fact that it can attack twice in a turn, really nasty. But when Digivolving, place one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon under one of your opponent's other Digimon as a bottom Digievolution card, or under one of their tamers. For each tamer you have with a different color, increase the maximum level this effect, choose and buy one. So any level 6, as long as you have 3 of these guys out, of different colors, by the way. So Taiki, Tageru, you, and then Old Clock Shopman, instantly now makes it so level 7 if you have all 4 out. That's huge, because now tucking it under your opponent's tamer makes it so they can never get it again. Only very select decks can utilize that kind of play, and that's really huge in some circumstances. Really putting a lot of pressure and making it so it's very hard for your opponent to deal with. Ridiculous. I think this deck is going to be a lot of fan favorite because there are players that like tricolor decks, like multicolor decks, just a vast variety, and this deck just synergizes so well with each other because it all uses the definition of save in its card text. Since every single one of these cards has save somewhere as either the option or somewhere like here that says, like this, contains save, that instantly classifies it as a save Digimon. So that means all the effects are live. You get to draw a bunch of cards. It has consistency. It has boost engines. The Taiki here basically lets you draw to keep it going, cycling pieces that you will be using later. And then you have like you that is going to gain you memory to extend your plays. And then, to Garu, that's just basically here for the setting you to 3. But all of this unification of just using that one keyword really does a lot of crazy damage. And then we did have Emperor Greymon coming in. So, small reminder, I forgot to mention these. These aren't perfect lists. These are just taken off from the website and just brought to you guys to look at. And then just give a brief synopsis. So, when the new support hit in BT12, we got Takuya here. That will set you to 3. Starter main phase, set you to 3. But it has a great inheritable. This Digimon gets plus 2,000 DP if this Digimon has 10,000 or more. It gains when this Digimon checks your opponent's security. Gain 2 memory. As long as your Digimon survived, kaboom! You have achieved extensions and plays. Use like Atomic Inferno to give your Digimon power and extra security checks to plow through. And then Emperor Greymon just seals the deal. What do I mean by that? When Digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon 6,000 DP or less. If this Digimon has a red tamer in Digivolution, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon instead. On deletion, you may play one Takuya from your hand or trash without paying its memory cost. So, if you lose this, you have another way of getting your tamer back. That was huge for the hybrid mechanic, because a lot of the times you lost your tamer, you're not getting it back. And that really hurt you in certain plays because you had to play a little bit slower because you couldn't play recklessly here. This time, now with the new support, you can be a little more aggressive. You can be a lot faster. A lot of your stuff now cycles through. You'll get your tamer back to your hand, or you'll get to play for free. And then being able to shut off options is massive. And you'll just do a lot of damage with this deck. It just proves how powerful the red hybrid stuff was waiting for. And I mean, even in BT11, it gave you support in this card alone, Yokomon. Basically, when you have a red tamer play, draw a card. That's really important. And then Bloom Hydra Quartz. If you don't know what this deck does by now, it's basically Bloom Lord, Hydramon, and then because of how powerful Quartzmon is, it finally gave the answer this deck needed for the longest time. If you're going to de-digivolve this off Quartzmon, you're usually passing turn. What do I mean by that? Well, Quartzmon suspends basically all your opponent's Digimon, and until they get off this, you get off this, there's real no point there, because if they're passing turn anyway and you can get back into a Quartzmon, you're really just punishing them at the end of the day. What's really nasty is, yes, it digivolves for 6 on a bunch of colors, but by suspending all Digimon except this one, suspend all Tamers, then gain 1 memory for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers in play. All turns, all Digimon except this one, and all Tamers cannot unsuspend. When attacking, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers. Then for every 5 suspended Digimon and or Tamers in play, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. What does this mean here? Well, Green needed a way of dealing with security problem, children. Well, Quartzmon gave the answer because Security Con wants to play a bunch of tamers. Now you shut them down, and then you just swing in for game. And you just clear out the security because you'll only deal 1 damage. But as long as the board goes wide enough, boom, they're done for. Quartzmon seals the deal in ways that your opponent doesn't want you to deal with, especially if you combo with Hidden Potential Discovered. This thing comes in for 1. And now you have Bloomlord, Hydramon, just controlling the game state. And then, you know, the Digizorption really does add in work because you're resting and suspending and you get to apply more damage. What do I mean by that? You'll climb up all the way to your top very easily. And then with the Pumamon from EX-4, this card, when effect suspends this Digimon, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. This allowed you to be able to swing into your opponent's big boss Digimon because you were able to play Pumamon. So it's stuff like this that really are mind-boggling and very powerful. And I think we have yet to see everything come to light. So then we do have Crossheart itself. And then we got a couple more decks to talk about. But why are we talking about Crossheart? Well, Crossheart times 7 Superior Mode is still a valuable option. The ability of on play return the Digievolution card of one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of their deck of any order, and then return that Digimon to the bottom of the deck, gets around every protection in the game that makes it so that they can't be spun back. Well, that's going down the drain. There's nothing they can do about it once this thing hits the field. So you basically play the normal Crossheart engine. We already know what most of this does. Shoutmon's just, you know, build a big Lego toy at the end of the day, get into ×4, or better yet, ×7, which uses the combo pages of Zeeg Greymon and Omni Shoutmon, or even Shoutmon DX, you know, Digicross. That's just all this does. And I think that's the big turning point here, is that we have to get to a point of controlling opponents' boss Digimons off the board with their protections. Then you have like Final Crossplay, delete one of your opponent's Digimon, then unsuspend your Shoutmon 7 Superior Mode and attack your opponent's Digimon. That applies so much pressure, and being able to get in there and attack him can win you the game. So stuff like this is really important to pay attention to. And then, as I mentioned before, Blue Flare came back strong once they got their new wave of support. The male Birdramon not being restricted in the inheritable of needing your opponent to have 2 Digimon really did help out. And I feel like that's really important, especially with the other key factors. I mean, Zeeg Greymon is really useful. I mean, the deck has a lot of plays. And then the Gossmon here, you know, your turn when you play a card with Blue Flare in its traits, draw a card. Basically everything minus the Greymon here and the Blue Memory Boost and Hammer Spark are all Blue Flare cards. Even the Kiriha and Nene card, which is nasty. The more you get out of this card, the more beneficial you are, and you can apply a lot of pressure with it. I feel like people are really starting to understand how important just having very powerful tamers are. They're like field spells in the games that you kind of get really needed for, or lands or anything like that. Anything that is just vital. So it's really interesting to see how far this deck has come, especially when your opponent can't really play around you because we have to do searching and stuff like that sometimes. And that really punishes them. And then, finally, guess who? Machiny Boy. This deck has so many possibilities of going into it, but when they introduced Chaos Dramon X Antibody, it really made the deck shine. What do I mean by that? Start of your main phase, place 1 Digimon card with Cyborg or Machine traits from your trash at the bottom of this Digievolution card. So, anything that's been lost, congratulations, you're getting that effect back. Then all turns, this Digimon gains all effects of Machine and Chaos Dramon in its Digievolution cards. And then all turns, when this Digimon would be deleted, trash the top card of your opponent's security stack. So, basically, if they try to blow it up once this thing sticks, it is near impossible to get it off the board. The only way you get it off is Chaos Degradation or Lonk Elastados. Stuff like that that just instantly just says move it off the board and get it into your security. Really nasty. But because of how powerful the deck is, using like Attack of the Heavy Mobile Machine to give you Rush and Blitz, no matter what the outcome is, as long as you can get to certain pieces, you're good. I like that they are teching in the red stuff. It's really unique. You know, have like Arrow the Dragon, trigger draw 2, and then if one of your Digimon has Greymon or Draw them on its name, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4,000 DP or less. So drawing cards and then popping stuff, really useful. And then same thing with Fireball. As long as they don't have a 3,000 DP Digimon, you're drawing cards. The deck sometimes needs a good draw engine, and maybe the red base, it really does help out. And this might get you prepared to play in Nats as well, seeing decks like this. I mean, taking out Quartzmon and these just become, you know, the new Machine Dramon really can do a lot of work for you. So I think that's very important to take a look at and really see how deck building comes to be through Japan's meta. We kind of get a good understanding, and I feel like this is very vital for all of you guys to get better at the game, to always look at what is on the horizon and what there might be changing up in their techs. So I think all in all, I think this video went well. What did you guys think? Is BT12's initial data, EX-4 data, really gonna change anything? And hopefully the Rising Wind kind of gets more Gemimon and, you know, Angoramon and Jellymon decks to start topping. Would be really cool to see. But without further ado, hope you liked the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace!